As a Northerner from New York City, you tend to live in this little bubble, and you don't really realize that there's other customs and norms that exist out there until you leave the North. So I blindly moved to Georgia, not realizing that there are major differences between how Southerners and Northerners live. Follow me and I'll tell you what they are. Hey, it's Altavis with GCH coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm a New York native and I've been here in the South for going on 5 years. Very quickly, I picked up on the many differences between Northern and Southern life. Aside from the obvious weather shift, I chose the top 5, although there are so many more. You'll get a great laugh, so make sure you stick around till the end. Okay, number 1 is Mr. or Miss, insert first name. When we first moved here, our 2 daughters at the time, I have 3 now, but when they were teeny and in daycare, we went to visit a daycare center and we met the staff and everyone introduced themselves as Miss or Mr. insert first name. So it was Miss Renee, Miss Sally. I thought it was a little weird, but hey, it's a school, right? And so you tend to call your teachers Mr. or Mrs. whatever. Granted, in the North, we would just say Mr. or Miss insert last name. So it was a little weird, but I just went with it. But when I realized that it was a thing is when our neighbors came over and introduced themselves. And she introduced herself as Miss Krista, and he introduced himself as Mr. Danny. Hi, Kristen, Danny, miss you. That's when we realized that people here really like to be called Mr. or Miss insert first name. This one is just particularly hard to get used to because, like I said, we would just say Mr. or Mrs. last name, or just straight up say first names. Anywho, that's the first difference between a Northerner and a Southerner. Number 2, people requiring others to call them ma'am/sir, especially and including children. This one is an odd one to me. So here's an example. I often hear parents disciplining their children, and at the end, they say to their child, "Yes, what?" And then the child says, "Yes, ma'am," or "Yes, sir." I cringe every time I hear that. There's probably a ton of people right now who think I'm wildly disrespectful and inappropriate for this comment, but I promise you, I'm not. In the North, it's just not a sign of respect to call people ma'am or sir. In fact, those terms in the South have a negative connotation, and then that's where my mind goes when I hear those. In the North, a sign of respect would be saying Mr. or Mrs. last name. Anywho, we don't require our kids to call us ma'am or sir, and we don't require them to call anyone else ma'am or sir. Our kids are very respectful and well-mannered despite not having ma'am and sir in their vocabulary. To each his own, right? Number 3, nothing, and I mean nothing, opens on a Sunday until 12 noon. 12 o'clock. Who does that? This is a good one, but it really sucks. Things open late on Sundays because people in the South go to church. And so retailers want to respect that. And so they have a little bit of a later start. I think it's beautiful. I love it. It's great. But, and however, it's so hard to go from being able your whole life to start your Sunday just as early as you would any other day, to now transitioning to the South and having to adjust to not being able to do anything until 12 o'clock on a Sunday. This is how I think of it. If you're anything like me, during the week, you're probably running a rat race. You've got to drop off kids, pick up kids, cook, clean, do laundry, whatever else, run errands. Oh, and don't forget to add work in there too. So the weekend really becomes the only time you can get errands done. So you have Saturday and you're running around crazy Saturday. And if your kids have play sports or have a social life, that's your whole Saturday there. So now comes Sunday and you still have errands to do. You have things to get done, but nothing opens until 12. So now with the later start, you've got to be out all day and try to get back in a decent enough time to start it all over again tomorrow. I think I'm getting the hang of it now, but for some Northerners, I suspect that this will hurt a little bit. And for some others, it might be a welcomed change. On to number 4. This one is so hilarious. So I'll tell you a story. So one day, after we had been here for about 2 weeks, I go into a store and there's a person standing in the front And she goes, "Hi, do you need a buggy?" And I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "Do you need a buggy?" And I was like, "Huh?" And she says a third time, "Do you need a buggy?" So after the third time, I say, "A buggy? What is that?" Oh, and I should point out, by the way, that had that been a New Yorker, after the second time I said, "What? Huh?" a New Yorker would have gotten an attitude, rolled their eyes, and probably walked away. Anyway, after the third time, I say, "What is that?" And she points to the cart. And I said, "Oh, you mean a cart?" I was like, "I am so sorry. I just moved here from New York and we call this a cart." I've never heard the term buggy before. So she was so sweet. She goes, "Yeah, sorry, I didn't know that." She goes, "Yeah, here in the South, we call these buggies." Anywho, long story short, Southerners call carts buggies. That's something you need to work into your vocabulary now. Otherwise, you will be standing somewhere looking like a fool or a deer in headlights just like me. And you don't want that to happen. And finally, the number 5 way you know you're from the North when you're in the South is when you hear someone say, "Bless your heart." I'm sure you've heard this before in like a movie or in passing, but several people since I've been here have said to me, "Bless your heart." Now, I'm told that it's more of an insult than a gesture of like sympathy, but I'll give you an example. So one day I'm talking to an older woman and I had a particularly rough day with 3 kids. And so I was telling her how life is just really tough with 3 kids. I think at that time I had 3 kids under 6, 3 kids under 6 or 7. So I was telling her about my rough day. And she goes, "Oh, bless your heart." Where's the insult in that, right? Like, I took it to mean either she really was sympathizing with me or could even empathize. Who knew? But where's the insult? Apparently, it is an insult. And here's what it means. I pity you because you did something dumb and you're too stupid to know better. Apparently, in Southern speak, it's a savage, backhanded compliment designed to appear sweet while you're really being awful, to preserve the long-standing notion that Southerners are the epitome of well-mannered folks. So instead of being outright mean, they disguised it in a feigned nicety. Who knew? Well, listen, I'm from the South Bronx, and I've been on the receiving end of many unniceties and backhanded compliments. And so, hey, if bless your heart is the worst you've got, I'll take it. There you have it. 5 ways you know you're from the North when you're in the South. If you're considering a move to Atlanta, check out my video, East Cobb versus West Cobb, which is better? It's a review about the 2nd largest county in the state of Georgia. If you liked what you've heard here today, don't forget to like and subscribe and come on back and keep watching. Thanks. See you later.